So I scored 119 on my TOEFL 2 months back, and I got 30 in all of these sections apart from one section. Now one section was the reading section, and let me tell you guys, reading section, I could have easily scored a 30 in that. I could have easily scored a 120, but I did a mistake. I made a bad mistake. And in this video, I'm going to make sure that you do not make the same kind of mistake, so that we know that we are equipped with everything we need to be. If I had this kind of advice before I took the TOEFL, I would have never ever lost that 1 mark. Alright, so let's make sure that you don't do that. Okay, so like I said, there's a few things that you need to know, few tips and tricks that you need to know to score a 30 on the TOEFL reading section. So let's cover them one by one. There's a total of 7 tips that I want to give you guys, and let's go about it right now. Okay, the first one is you gotta reach the center early. Okay, reach the center early, but do not start your exam early. This is the key, okay? Do not forget this. You reach early because you want to make sure that you are in the mindset of taking the test. Your mind, you are ready with all your subconscious mind that basically you are going to take the test now, and you are already at the center, and basically they have long checks to run. They'll check you whenever you go out, basically do all of their checks, make you say your name out loud in front of the camera, everything. All of this takes time. Check your sleeves even. So you want to make sure that you are at the center early, you are on time, and that you are not basically bogged down by these processes. And maybe sometimes people get in late and start late, and they're already kind of hurried up. Their mindset is not really that calm. You want to make sure that you are early, okay? But do not start the test early. Why? This is the mistake I made that cost me that 1 mark. Okay, I started early. But why do I say do not start early? Because once you actually go to the center, once you are at the place you have to take the exam, you're in front of the computer, the first thing you'll be asked to do is calibrate your mic. And to do that, you have to answer simple questions. You have to speak. Sometimes people just repeat the question. I don't know. Sometimes people answer the question, whatever they do. But at the end of the day, people will be speaking when you are doing the reading section if you do not pay attention here. Okay, so what happens is you get the question, and it's always the same question. It's the question that you have to describe the city that you live in. Alright, and what happens is that everyone gets the same question. Alright, if you come in early and you start early, what will happen is that people will come after you, and the seats are really close to each other. This is one thing you should know. So people can disturb you while you are taking the test. That is a very high, it's a very high possibility, highly likely kind of a scenario, and it will happen. There's no saving you from it. That's something I want you to make sure that you are well acquainted with. Alright, but what you can do is make sure that the overlap is according to you. Alright, see, after the reading section there's a listening section. Alright, so even if people are listening on their headphones, you will have no issue while doing the reading section, because you will be reading and people are listening. There's really no issue, not much of an issue, right? But if people are speaking, if people are trying to describe the city that they live in, or people are just repeating the same question over and over and over, probably 100 times while you are taking the reading section, it's gonna affect your score adversely. I'm not sure if you agree with me on this completely, but just take this advice. Do not think on it even twice. Okay, don't do anything about it. Just go early but start late, because that's what you want to do. You want to be in your complete kind of a non-disturbed state when you're taking the reading section, because only in that case you will be able to take it. It's a hard section, trust me. It's a very hard section according to me. Let's move on to the next tip here, and that is always take your own earplugs if you can. Okay, so these are the earplugs that I got from the center. By the way, I went to the Gurgaon Test Center Prometric. So if any of you guys are going over there and they are very happy by the way they handle your GRE exam, trust me, that is not the way they will be handling your TOEFL exam. It's going to be a total mess. You're gonna hate them after that. Alright, so don't worry about it really. But they did have one thing. When I was taking the test, I had my, hands, I had my fingers in my ears because, people were speaking while I was taking the reading section. I wasn't able to concentrate. I wasn't able to understand what I'm reading at times. I had to read twice or thrice, So that is something you want to avoid, right? This invigilator came around and he just handed me these, orange colored earplugs. And, personally, I just think that you should be taking your own in any case, Sometimes your center might not have it, sometimes they might. At times they won't allow you to take it, but then they might have their own, so they'll give it to you. But, always good to be safe, always good to take whatever you can, okay? So earplugs really definitely, they helped me a lot, especially in the reading section. I was midway through. I had like four reading passages because one of them was the experimental section. I don't know which one, but one of them was. And really it went pretty well after that, after I plugged in my earplugs. So I'm pretty sure that I lost that 1 mark in the first two reading sections. Anyway, that was the tip number 2. Let's move on to the next one, and that is, do not repeat do not keep on reading the same passage over and over again. If you do not understand the meaning of, let's say, a sentence, you're going back up, you're reading it again, hoping that you will understand something, but that is not how it always works, right? Sometimes you just cannot understand a sentence. Maybe it's the pressure, maybe it's the environment, maybe it's a lot of things. Maybe it's just that the sentence has been written in a way that you do not understand yet, right? So don't keep on wasting your time. You need to move ahead, even if that kind of blocks one of your questions, that you're not able to answer one of your questions because of this line. Just take your best guess, write down the question number, and move on. By the way, this is not the GRE. You do not get to mark the question. You have to manually come back to the question, and you have to remember the question numbers, right? So you'll have this sheet in front of you. What I want you to do, whenever you have to mark a question, whenever you want to go back to a question, note down its question number. That is the easiest way. You do not get this facility of marking the question on the TOEFL. So really do that, okay? Alright, the next tip that I want to give you guys, this is really probably the biggest thing that I can give you, the greatest piece of advice, but most of you might already know it. The thing is that the TOEFL questions are given to you sequentially. You have 14 questions, 20 minutes, alright? What happens is that there's a huge paragraph, probably 7 to 8, huge passage, probably 7 to 8 paragraphs long. And what happens is, first you get the questions from the first paragraph, then from the second paragraph, then from the third, and it keeps on moving down with that trend. Sometimes it happens that you don't get any question from even one paragraph, and we'll talk about that just in a moment. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're reading the first paragraph and then answering the first question, reading the second paragraph, and then in that way. Sometimes one paragraph might even have 2 or 3 questions, really. But first read the question. That's why always it sometimes gives you a reference of where what the question asks you about, and sometimes it's from which paragraph it is from. It's very much loud and screaming to you, and it's easy to understand. But if not, keep on reading and you will find whatever you're looking for. You won't have to read till the end. It's always near the paragraph that you're currently at, okay? Great. And the next thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about was when sometimes it just so happens that you get a paragraph from the you get a question from the third paragraph, and then you move on, and the next question, next series of questions really appear from the 5th paragraph. So basically the 4th paragraph just got skipped. What I want you to do is, before you even go to the 5th paragraph to start to answer the question, if you have the time, by the way, mostly you should have the time, you should be able to manage your time. But if not, doesn't matter, just skip it. But most of the times you want to read this 4th paragraph as well. Why, you ask? It's because you will have this one paragraph, this question at the end. It's a summary based question, and if you do not understand how the essay develops, what really is the context, what is happening, you might not be able to answer it. There's a whole lot of difficult questions that come at the end, last 1 or 2 questions where you might need that knowledge. They are from the complete paragraph, they're not from the last paragraph. So you need to understand this point, that every sentence on the passage needs to be read by you and you should be, paying all of your attention to that paragraph without thinking about it twice. Okay, so even if you do not get a question from a paragraph, just read it through and then move on to the next paragraph, answer the question, move on. Okay, great. Let's talk about the next, and that is, do not get stuck on even a single question. What happens is, people just kind of keep on reading the same paragraph again and again and again, hoping that they will understand what to do, hoping that they will get the answer, but that does not always happen. Okay, what they end up doing instead is they end up taking up more than the time that they should take for that question. So basically, when you're given 20 minutes for 14 questions, you should know that you should not spend more than 1.5 minutes for any question, really. Even the hardest of questions take 2 minutes, last question probably, but do not spend more than that, right? You want to make sure that you finish all of your questions, at least one go over them within the first 18 or 18.5 minutes, so that you have those 1.5 to 2 minutes to review the passage. And trust me guys, these questions come in continuation, so you'll have 60 minutes on the clock. Most of you, I had 80 because I had 4 passages, but 60 minutes on the clock, it keeps on going down, and the passages are one after the other, they keep on coming. So if you do not have the time in this passage to review it, make sure that you are trying to get some extra time on the next passage whenever you complete it, so that instead of 2 minutes, maybe you're saving up 3 minutes so that you can review the questions from this half as well. So it's always like that. You want to know how to manage your time. And I understand it can be hard, really. Some people are not used to reading so much, so much of the passage in one go, probably three reading passages, that 2 long ones. In my case, I had 4 reading passages. But really, learn to manage your time. That is very important here. Okay, the next step for you guys is, you want to practice with some level of disturbance from the background. All right, I don't know, put on a movie that you're not used to watching or something like that, some random TV series, something going on in the background. Doesn't have to be very loud, but the louder the better, really. I think that you are used to kind of not letting that overpower you. Okay, because what happens at the test is, sometimes even though you don't want that, but sometimes your test takers, your invigilators might force you to start, like I said, go early but do not start. Sometimes it might happen, or sometimes it just might happen that people just start talking to the invigilator in between the test. They don't care that other people, or other 50 people in the same room are taking the test, and this might just be your neighbor. All right, so make sure that you're used to doing all of these sections with some noise in the background. Doesn't matter how high pitched it is or whatever it is, but there should be some background noise, and it will definitely help you out. Okay, all right, the next point is on your vocabulary. So for all of you people who think that the TOEFL is really easy, and how it was so easy for me to score 119 out of 120, that was because I had developed a very good vocabulary for my GRE. Okay, and GRE is a very higher level exam as compared to the TOEFL. So of course my vocabulary was of a much higher level than should be required by the TOEFL. So make sure that your vocabulary is good, you understand the synonyms, because most of these questions, I think probably 10 questions at least on the TOEFL you will get, which will ask you to identify the meaning of this word. They'll highlight the word in the passage. They'll ask you, what is the actual meaning of this word? What is the context this word is used in? And most of the times, it's not really that complicated. It's just a synonym for that word. That is the meaning. So if you know the synonyms, if you know the meanings, really, it's going to be very easy for you. You won't even waste 10 seconds on that question. You'll just select the answer, you'll move on. Okay, so make sure that you're working on your vocabulary extensively if you have the time. If you don't, then whatever, you cannot do anything about it, but still try. Whenever you do practice questions, really note them down, note the synonyms down, do everything you can. Okay, by the way, if any of you guys needs material to study for the TOEFL, what material to refer to, I'll put a link in the description, or I'll also put the video suggestion at the end of this video, so that you can actually go on and see what is the TOEFL material I personally used to score 119. Anyway, if you do not know the meaning of a word, by the way, you should just, guess and move on, because staring at the options won't really get you any of the answers, right? So even if you are, looking at the options again and again and again, it won't help you, it won't get you the answer, because you do not know the meaning of that word, right? So it's either you know it or you do not. Just, make peace with the reality over there and move on. Alright, this is the last and the most important tip for you guys. Summary questions. Let's talk about summary questions. It is the most important question probably. As far as I remember, there's, after you read the passage, the 14th question or the last question, whichever it is in your case. Sometimes there's 13 questions or so, 12 to 14 questions mostly. But what happens is, at the end you get a question in which you have to, I think there are 6 options. You have to take out 3 options which get you the main meat of the passage, which tell you that, yeah, if these 3 sentences were included, this would be the summary of the passage, and the rest of the 3 sentences that are in the options, they do not matter as much. Okay, so focus on the as much here, they still matter, right? But you want to select the 3 most important sentences which give you the crux of the whole passage that you have read. Okay, great. So how do you do that? Well, here's the tip for doing that. Here's the tip I use, because these questions are worth 2 points sometimes. They're not just worth 1. So here's the tip that I personally used and was able to make sure that all of my questions, by the way, all of my questions were correct. I know, because I only lost 1 mark, and 1 mark is not for these questions. These questions are usually 2 marks or more. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to ask yourself this question repeatedly in your head every time you read any option. Okay, every time you want to ask this question. The question is, would the passage still make sense if this detail was removed from the passage? You throw this detail out of the passage, this was never really told to you, and is the passage still that, coherent? Is it really, coming together? Or, really, does the point really stay the same? Is it that impacting? And most of the times you'll get your answer that you know what, this point isn't that important, because even if it is removed, the passage still stands. Okay, and that is the way you want to tackle these questions. You want to make sure that you have this question in your mind, so make sure that you do. Okay, anyway, so these were all of my tips for the TOEFL reading section. I will put the video link over here for the material I personally used. If you want to refer to it, you can just click on the video and you can go. I have also made videos on the speaking section, writing section. I'll also put those here so that you can actually go on and get these tips. Okay, and finally, if you want to see my whole admissions process, I'm targeting fall 2019. You can actually go onto my Instagram, you can actually connect with me. I have a WhatsApp group, you can also talk to me over there. So there's a whole lot of things you can do. Any doubts you have, I can really help you out. Okay, so I'm really willing to connect with all of you people, and I would be really happy if you guys reach out. Okay, so you can find me on Instagram. The link is in the description. And if you like this video, if this video helped you out, please give me a thumbs up and